The focus for today, there's no formal presentation or anything like that. We will have at the upcoming December pilot community of practice for this opportunity through the State Board of Education. We will have a formal presentation from a community about their career exploration experience at the middle school level. But had a lot of requests from folks just to come together and talk to others who are piloting a career exploration at the elementary, middle school space, right? Kind of like before they get into that high school setting. So wanted to take some time and just connect us all. And the thought here is to kind of break out into maybe three kind of like three small groups and have you all share about your plans and your thinking and just hear from one another, ask questions of one another, and get feedback too, I think. So as you might present your plan to the room, I think it would be helpful if each person kind of goes around and talks about their plan when you all get into the rooms. And then maybe what questions you might have for others, ask for feedback, insights from others, right? There's no one model that fits all communities, all contexts, all students, all need, right? But we all have models that we can kind of take pieces from and put together to make work in our space. But before we get started there, I'm going to do a little quick review actually of the definition of a career exploration experience and can answer any kind of like general group questions as well before we move into those breakout rooms. But again, I'm Heather Penzak. So I'm from an organization called Education Systems Center. We're based out of Northern Illinois University. We're our own division of outreach, but we do a lot in the college and career pathway world. And one of my kind of wheelhouses being work-based learning. So working closely with folks at ISBE, and I see Karen and Marcy on the line as well to introduce themselves and say hi here in a moment. But working closely with them to support this pilot by convening folks for communities of practice every other month, providing any other resources or kind of technical assistance and answering questions as you all need related to the actual implementation of the experience. Any grant or money questions, that's going to be all Karen and Marcy. I just don't know. So I would definitely defer to them on that, but can support you as you're thinking about your design and implementation of your actual pilot experience. But I'll let Karen and Marcy say hi as well.
Good morning. Oh, we're both here.
Yeah, go ahead, Karen.
My name is Karen Lockhart. I am working with Heather on this project to work on like the grant support side. So I'm happy to answer any questions you all have going into that area. I'm excited to see so many people here. And I'm looking forward to hearing what everyone's doing.
Yes, excited to be here to hear what everybody's doing. I think this is a really great grant. We know that career exploration is so important for kids to do the career exploration now instead of once they get into college. And we thank you for taking that leap of faith with us with this grant. And we look forward to hearing what's working, what's not working, and some successes. So thanks for letting me join.
Wonderful, thank you all. So I'm going to pull up here just so we're kind of all on the same page as we're thinking about these. The actual definition, so utilizing this from actually, oops, wrong screen, but I will share that link with you all in a moment. All right, this should be good here. So I'm just pulling up really quick the definition of a career exploration experience. And so really thinking through in this moment, kind of like to Marcy's point here, where we're thinking about having students explore and understand what they want to do before they're making a commitment in post-secondary, where they're spending an extensive amount of time and money, maybe committing themselves to a career or an industry area that they're actually starting to discover throughout that is not actually working for them. It doesn't fit with their values, their skills, their passions. And so when we look at a career exploration, we're at the beginning of the continuum here. But we've also moved on from career awareness. So when you think about career awareness, that is very much a stage where a student, an individual is engaging a bit more passively, right? They might be watching some videos, taking some surveys, pieces like that, and starting to grapple and think about what it is that they like to do. When they move into career exploration, this might be one of the first times that they're actually interacting with some industry professionals, right? And this should be more active, more of a direct engagement. So if we look at the definition here from the Illinois Career Pathways Dictionary, which if you were at the kickoff or other pieces here have talked through, it's really just some definitions for work-based learning that define kind of that minimum threshold for quality, not being super prescriptive, but also really making sure that these experiences are outlined and doing what they're set to do to support a student along this work-based learning continuum. So in career exploration, you're looking at an activity such as a job shadow, attendance at a career exposition or like a career fair, they're called sometimes too, or an employer site visit, providing an individual with the ability to engage directly with employers for the purpose of gaining knowledge of one or more industry sectors or occupations. And so those bolded pieces there are really important, right? Individuals should now be able to engage directly with an employer or with an industry expert, right? We can also kind of, I've talked about this before, but like problematizing sometimes our idea of an employer, right? Our own school districts are employers, community-based organizations are employers, for-profit corporate companies are employers, your post-secondary institutions in the space also are employers and have industry experts in them, right? So there's a lot of different folks who can come and talk to your students, but they should be able to really engage directly with them. So they should be able to ask questions, get insights from them, and just really get that live interaction and, you know, get people to, in a sense, like talk off the cuff a bit, right? Have that employer really show who they are as a person, talk about their industry. And then the other piece here is where students can get an extensive amount of information, right? So they're not just learning about one job at one company. They might be learning about a single company, but learning about multiple jobs within that company, right? When we think about any industry area, there are multiple departments, multiple things that make that company, make that organization run as it does. So where they can understand that and see where they might start to fit into that or where they might start to be interested in, to then ask more questions, gain more knowledge. I think one of the biggest pieces is just that students are unaware of all the different opportunities that are out there. I'm still unaware of all the different opportunities that are out there, right, within each company or organization. Human resources is the example I bring up a lot. I mean, raise your hand if you knew about human resources in high school, that was like an actual job that you could go into, right? But they're huge departments that even have departments within them, right? So even thinking there where we can expose students to that, you know, you might be interested in healthcare, but that doesn't just mean that you're going to be a nurse or a doctor. You might be interested in manufacturing, but maybe you actually want to be like an accountant at a manufacturing company, right? You like kind of the environment of it, but actually you like working more with numbers and charts. I don't know. That's what I have for accounting right now. So that's just kind of the piece there. Would open it up if there's any kind of questions about this definition or any other kind of like general pieces. And so I do then kind of want to leave it to you all's vote. So we have kind of a decent sized group here. We can break out into small breakout rooms. This is really, again, an opportunity for you all to share your thinking, get some feedback, ask questions to one another about your pilot plans. I'm here, the rest of the group is here, right, to kind of offer any insights or suggestions as they're needed, but it's really just a time to connect. So is there a preference staying large, breaking into small? We could always do some large group and then maybe at about 10:30 break into small groups too and mix it up. See some head nods. Why don't we do that for a bit? I think I would love maybe if a few folks just want to share out their plans and their thinking, kind of get us started. And then at about 10:30, we can move into some smaller breakout rooms. Awesome. I see some thumbs up, head nods. Appreciate it. It's so much different with virtual. I used to be a high school biology teacher, so I was used to like freshmen, you know, like reading the room really good. Virtual is a little trickier. Any volunteers? Go for it, Amy.
Thanks. So what we had originally planned to do, we also, when we were writing the plan, we're thinking, well, we don't know if the teachers and the other staff in the building will have the capacity. And so we've kind of figured out that, yeah, we were right along our initial thoughts that there really isn't capacity for where we were going. So we are pivoting our plan right now. So I just want to lead with that caveat first. And so I'm really excited that we have the opportunity to come and to talk together today, because I definitely have some questions, and I know my two team members, we strategized before to ask questions. So I just want to say, just a heads up, I'll try to keep my questions minimal to everyone else, and only ask the really intense ones that we need. But what we had started thinking of doing was building a curriculum that could be used in an advisory program or an after-school club around career exploration. And we had set aside money for those from the funds to pay the individual teachers or staff members that assisted with writing that curriculum, and then to use that to be implemented next year. And so what we've run into is the fact that there, and rightfully so, there's just no takers in wanting to write the curriculum because we're all a little stressed and we all have other stuff going on and stuff's not back to normal, or what we are dealing with. We all get it, right? I don't need to explain it more. But so what we have been doing is trying to look for potentially a curriculum that's out there. And so we found on ISBE's website, they have a My Cart career exploration curriculum that is out there. And so my first question is if anyone has used that career exploration curriculum and has any feedback, we would love to hear from you about that. If you had specific lessons that you used and had success with it, I would definitely love to hear that. If you have used an outside curriculum for career exploration that you've had success with, please send that my way, because that's another request. So it doesn't have to be the one that was on ISBE's website, but if you have knowledge of anything that could be used at that 7th or 8th grade level, we would definitely want any suggestions and would appreciate that. So what we're looking at now, and I'm so glad that both Chris and Em are on this call with me today too, is so Chris, working at the high school and supporting K through 12, brought the idea to the team about the fact that when students come in as 9th graders, they're having issues with aligning their interests with the correct CTE courses. And so the thought was to bring that information to the parents and to the students starting like in 7th and 8th grade, so that when they come into 9th grade and they're signing up for their classes, they understand that, oh, if I'm interested in business, I should be looking at this. Or if I'm interested, if I like numbers, here's a direction I can go. So what we're looking at is the career pathway user guide booklets that we have already, vamping them a little bit. We're also looking at what ISBE has with the career guides and the specific middle grade version that's out there too for an interest inventory. We're considering purchasing those. So we're still very much in the developing phase and hoping to glean some suggestions and any resources that you might have that you've had positive interactions with for today. So that's where we're at, but thanks.
Heather, I can share what we're doing in DVR. We basically only have one district that's a unit district in our region, and they're trying to align what they're doing in basically 6th, 7th, and 8th grade with the high school. They're in the process, kind of like Amy's doing, where what they originally wanted to do really wasn't going to work, so they're kind of pivoting in another direction. They currently have a tool that they use for, I'll call it a, kind of more of an assessment. It's basically designed off the PACE framework, aligned up with the different career pathways. So, or I should say career clusters, which is the old terminology. So their goal is to create basically 9 different lessons that can tie into these career clusters. The goal is to have 3 of them that they use with their each grade level each year. So with a total of 9, 3 for each grade level. And then as the students go through each grade level, they go through these different lessons. They're also going to tie it in with an employer visit. So if there's a career cluster that's attached to a certain employer, then the employer is going to come in and be a guest speaker. They're still in the process of kind of putting things together, but they're pretty confident that they can utilize this. One area that when I met with them last week that I emphasized was, that we're all about collecting data. And one thing that I found successful in a previous life was actually using video. So they actually reached out to someone they knew and that can video what they're going to be doing and kind of taking that process and putting it in place in a video form, which in the past, I found that very successful because then I know Marcy always likes to put that on our site. And like I said, it's just a way that we can show all the good things that we're doing in the state and CTE.
Thank you both. We'd love to. I mean, if the group has, insights or additional questions for Amy or Michael or wants to share about their plan too, this is a space for us all to kind of support each other too as we think about our plans.
Heather Rice and I are in Tremont, and we kind of are focusing just on 2 areas, welding and health sciences. And she's implemented the welding unit with our 8th graders already, and I'm starting it with our 7th graders this week. Just kind of giving them some access to some different areas they maybe wouldn't have experience with and kind of show them some different things that are out there. We have a guest speaker that came in that does welding and talk to the kids about that. They're able to ask him questions, and then he's going to come back and visit with our 7th graders here in December or January after they've had a chance to do some of the welding stuff to see what questions they've got. And then we're kind of figuring out how our health science unit's going to work with the supplies and materials we have. We want to make sure we've got appropriate supervision. We're thinking of maybe like a health science career day where we have a few speakers come in and then the kids can kind of rotate around and they can talk to them about some of those areas.
Oh, Heather, that's great. I would love to know more about kind of how you've connected middle and high school and dual credit. That seems like a fun kind of trifecta there.
We are in the same building as our high school.
Let me do my thing here.
And so I think that's the 2 programs that they chose to implement here at the middle school. We have a dual credit CNA program that our high school students can enroll in as juniors. And then this year is the first year they've offered a welding certification type program. So those were the 2 I think they chose to focus on. We do also offer fire science dual credit. So that kind of helps feed into the health sciences as well. So again, it's just our first year, just getting our feet wet and just kind of rolling with it, but really want to get our community members and those out in the field involved to help recruit for that high school program.
Yeah, so it sounds like that you have like high schoolers engaging with middle schoolers.
At this point, no. We have discussed having the high school students who are involved in the welding and the CNA come down. I do know there's one, our fire science instructor would love to come and help and start the recruiting at the earlier age and answer questions and just get involved because both of these are fields where the employment is decreasing, especially in the trades. And our guest speaker really encouraged the kids, regardless of what profession you're going to go into, and exposure to the trades is definitely valuable.
My husband's learning that as he renovates our basement single-handedly. I'm just the design person, but so I think that's like, I love that piece too, because we're thinking about how you're engaging some of your like older students, right? Especially like within those districts where you have kind of your high school really connected, you already work closely together, but where you might already have those partnerships or form those partnerships, like your high school students can give a really good take on like what this looks like, right? So like to Amy's point about students coming from the middle school and then thinking about how they align their interests with their CTE courses, like that's a great perspective that your high school students could provide to your middle schoolers, right? Like, oh, I took this course and actually like, that wasn't right. Like, but I know other friends who did this and they should do that, or right. They can be a really great like ambassador of your different CTE programs or different areas for sure.
So I'll share. I'm hoping to learn from y'all today about how you're doing elementary. So I have an elementary pre-K through 8 building. We've taken our time. We haven't jumped right in. So we developed a team of teachers, our 21st century coordinator, and junior high students. So we've met 3 times. We've done a student survey to determine what they know about careers, college readiness. And so we examined that. We actually met yesterday. We decided to start after Thanksgiving with the junior high, which is 6 through 8. And we are going to be using Zello. So we're going to do the assessments first, and then do the lessons within Zello. Where we're looking at is elementary. Teachers have had ideas of just kind of doing like community helper. We've purchased some books for the pre-K 2nd grade so far. So we too are looking at curriculum and other ideas for the younger kids.
Anyone have thoughts on those younger kiddos, how they've engaged them or heard of models that they've been engaged?
So I'll go next. One of my smaller districts, they're at the elementary level and they are looking at major clarity. They're also purchasing some of the 7 Habits books. And they also, for the elementary class, they purchased, or school, they purchased career banners just to have in the hallways to remind, to show the options to kids. And it's a small school, so I think it is like a K through 6 or 7 school building.
Thank you for the ideas.
Dorletta, I think I saw you go off mute too. I don't know if you had something to share about those younger kiddos. I definitely do encourage.
Sorry about that. I was
Go
trying to
for
take
it.
myself off of mute. Hi, I'm Dorletta Payton from Valley View School District. And what we are trying to focus on at the elementary level is really exposure via that integrates with curriculum. And we have a vendor, which at this very moment is escaping my mind, but they have lessons and activities really more so, especially for STEM-based, but that integrate with lessons that they're doing at elementary, but then go into what are some of the careers related to this subject. If they're doing something about animals, they might go into a zoologist or whatever it might be. But at the elementary level, that's kind of the method that we are taking. At the middle school level, we use Naviance, and we have probably about 6 lessons for each grade level that we want the students to do. And we actually have them go through the career interest inventories and have them explore different areas. But, kind of 6th grade, we start wide and still wide at 7th. But at 8th, we start getting them thinking about really what they think they might want to do as we look forward to high school. So that's what I had wanted to share.
Thank you for that. I do know some of the models that I've seen with younger students and honestly even adults too, right? The whole spectrum is like, where as much as possible, you have them engaging hands-on while someone might be talking to them, right? So someone can be talking them through some manipulatives that they're working with, right? Like, how does this connect? What does this look like? Bringing in models, doing something with like pipe cleaners, I don't know. But getting creative there, right, where it's not really this like sit and get, but it feels like students are kind of engaging in it. They're getting a feel for it. Can be a really fun, yeah, like junior achievement is a great one. They do a lot of really interactive stuff. But, you know, thinking through where you can have some fun with that, even if it's like pieces of construction paper or whatever, just getting creative with your industry partners, your industry experts, and having students engaged hands-on while they're listening.
One more thing for middle school. We do have, well, pre-COVID, we had career fairs where we actually had, you know, people come in and we encourage them for not to just stand there and talk to the students, but to have things that they could interact with. We had, for example, a photographer, but he used drones. And, you know, he would do demonstrations. The kids really like that. So those kinds of things, as you said, Heather, where they're not just, you know, sitting or standing and getting, but actually able to interact were very popular.
For those of you who may have joined, we're just taking some time to share about our plans, ask questions that we have about our plans as we're thinking about offering a career exploration experience at the middle school level. So if you've joined us recently and want to share about your plan, or if you have certain questions about your career exploration plan, we'd love to hear that. Or if any others who've been on too want to share. I might keep us as a large group if that's working for folks, or we can move into small rooms too.
As we consider the different programs that are being pursued through the schools in our region, a couple of our schools have integrated pods per se into the courses that are already existing, kind of more of an enrichment experience for career exploration. But we do have one school in our region that is kind of held back a little bit to try and plan this out a little bit further. And I think their end goal is good in the fact that they would like to create more of a long-term program that is more standalone in nature, that is a part of the curriculum for career exploration. And some of the challenges I think that they run into are just the number of requirements that are already in place for students at the elementary level for coursework alongside the electives. They're generally in place at the elementary level have been there for years, those being and great programs, but music related, some of the computer and keyboarding courses, PE, there art, there are a number of electives that are kind of in place at the elementary level that have been there for a number of years, and there isn't a lot of time left over for blocks in the day to add another unit. So we're really interested to know if there are other programs to the state that have encountered that, have good solutions on how to integrate more career exploration and opportunities through career and technical education at the elementary level as more standalone units aside of necessarily having those as enrichment and programs that are already in place.
And I welcome others to respond to that. The one thing that kind of popped up for me is doing like are you familiar with like team-based challenges? Kind of this like project-based concept, right? You have a mentor, they guide students. It's very student-driven, inquiry-driven, could be aligned to a project that you already do within a CTE or a core academic course, right? And maybe it wouldn't be as intensive as it might be at the high school level. It could be like team-based challenge light, right? But something where there's like a project and mentorship from an industry person within that course, like a project that teacher is already going to do, right? So it's not something new they necessarily have to do. The new piece is maybe having some more like student-driven aspect to it and getting that mentorship piece from an industry person. It could be a high school teacher, post-secondary representative, an organization in the area, but we'll welcome others too. And to that point, I know I've shared this site before, but through our kind of larger Illinois Work-based learning network. Did this go in here? Am I freezing? Oh, there it is. I have a whole set of different team-based challenge, like templates, ideas for inspiration. So it, as you think about maybe doing any sort of a project aligned with curriculum, for students to work on the project, work with industry people to complete that project, where you can build from things that are already existing, where you can use some of those ideas, maybe enhance something or implement something new. I know in the health sciences space, I know a district built from just current case studies that they did, and unpack them to make them a little bit more open-ended rather than having a defined answer to them. And awesome. Love things in the chat. Please feel free to put additional resources, links in there. I will copy this chat and share it back with everybody as well.
Heather, I don't know if everybody realized it, but the new career guide actually has a middle school component now, where there's a separate guide just for middle schools. I was trying to find the link, so I don't know if Marcy, if you or Karen can put that into the box.
I'll find it right now.
I think that's a great
on our main
resource
campus,
that's now new. I don't think everybody's aware of. Thank you.
Anyone else have questions, want to get some feedback maybe on their plan or want to share their plan generally? There's a real piece here as I'm hearing more about like kind of aligning to a lesson or curriculum and then engaging that industry person. One of the best things you can do to really make career exploration a quality experience is have kind of that pre-experience, the actual career exploration, and then the post, right? So where do you have students kind of starting to think about things, even coming up with questions? I would host a lot of like guest speaker panels for the high school seniors that I worked with. And I learned very quickly that if I don't kind of prep them and work with them to come up with questions, a lot of times you get to the panel and they just kind of have like no idea what to ask. And they just kind of stare at your panelists, and people get really excited to come and like speak to students, right? Like it's a little bit something different for their day. And it is kind of a bummer when nobody asks you anything. So where you can have kind of that pre-space, right? Where you're teeing up, having students even research the person or research the organization that they're going to hear from, coming up with 1 to 2 kind of targeted or general questions, right? And then coming prepared with those. Sometimes I would even literally have like an envelope when we were in person, and I would have like cut out little questions in there, and I would just kind of like tap a student on the shoulder and hand them, like slip them a question that they would then read out loud and ask that panelist. Again, I mean, really being thoughtful to the point that this might be the first time students are interacting with an industry professional like that, and that, it's not so much that it's intimidating, but they kind of are just like, I don't know how to engage with this person. This is not something I'm like used to doing, right? And so where you can be supportive and prep them for that is really valuable. But then this post piece too. So as you all are thinking through wanting to support students to make decisions when they get to high school, when they make decisions about the career areas they're interested in, like what does that follow-up then look like? Like students went through now their career exploration experience. What did that bring up for them? What questions have bubbled up for them? How are they starting to think about, the paths that they want to choose? How are you providing additional information about those paths and how they can start to access those, right? So maybe it's even having an industry person in for the experience, maybe having some of your high school representatives in for that post who can talk through now the CTE pathways and talk through all those different components and courses you should take, experiences available to do continued work-based learning at the high school level. But that kind of whole flow, the pre and post and the actual experience is really valuable to actually cement that for students and not make it just feel like a field trip, right? They got a day off to go like tour a hospital. Awesome. They got a free lunch in like the hospital cafeteria. It's like, no, there's actual like thought about why you're going, learn information, and then let's follow up on it. Anyone else? I know, especially as we have some new folks come in, want to share about their career exploration plan or questions that they have. Yes, that's a great point too about the presenters. Your presenters are not trained youth development professionals. So, you know, they might come in and want to be especially technical, or, you know, some people are just dry and that's okay and it's fine, right? But like, so where you can actually prep them to talk about certain things, like students are gonna, I don't know, well, I guess at the middle school level, right? They might want to know those too. How much money do those people make? Like, how many hours a week do they work? Like, do they get a lot of vacation time? Like, do they get to like handle cool stuff a lot? Like, what does it look like? They really do want to know these things, right? And so where you can prep your presenters, like, yes, talk about your job and talk about what you do, but like, talk about the full picture of it, right? I think it's also very helpful if presenters talk about the different ways they got to the job that they did, right? Some of the panels I've done that were really interesting was kind of having the same role, but they all got there in different ways, right? And so you can access the same occupation going through a very direct or a winding route. And then also being thoughtful too about representation, right? Where you're having panelists who come in and reflect your students and your community, right? And they see themselves in that. People who are newer in their career too can also be really valuable, right? It's cool to get like the head honcho at a place, but they can sometimes be very far removed from the job that your students might be accessing earlier in their career. And they can be, those earlier career people can be really, really great. Question about an agenda or template for career nights. And that gets me to a point too, as you all might be thinking about that. So part of this pilot goal is to create, oh gosh, this like Zoom thing is like right here. Let me move this thing. Is to create a resource bank. And so we've actually started to organize this now through a site. So it's a bit easier than Google folders that you might all have had before. And I'll be sending out like a full email about this too. But this is really our resource page. So anything that you all are sharing, we're going to put up here, give some background about the grant opportunity and the definitions here. But then on this site are all the different materials that we have. So as we do communities of practice, those recordings are going to be here. I'll put up our kind of like community conversations too, different career exploration resources. So these will continue to be built on as we have community of practice presenters, as we have you all sharing your templates and resources that you're utilizing. And then ultimately they'll be shared statewide, right? To support communities across the state, even outside of this pilot, to do career exploration and career development experiences. But yes, anything that we're able to share through there would be wonderful.
I'd like to share one more resource, and I just put a link to it. Last year, some of our middle schools, in conjunction with Junior Achievement, created a virtual career fair. And basically it's career, some college as well, but career video series, of course, because it was during the pandemic. And on the site, you can go by career cluster, and it has different people, and some of them are in Spanish as well. And we had questions that they would answer about their career. And this was targeted to middle school students, but it can actually go high school and beyond, really, as people talk about their career. But it is out there and it's available. There are activities on the homepage. Junior Achievement has some activities that you can do, but under the career clusters, military, trades, etc., there are lots and lots of videos there that people might want to use as well as a resource. These are real people, and it has their company name.
Thank you for sharing that. And definitely, you know, sometimes I get questions about like, do you have a pool of employers we could work with? And like, sure, that would be great, right? If there was like a statewide pool of employers who could like tap in and fill a need as needed. But there is such a value to working with your regional, your community partners, right? And again, if a goal is to keep students in your community, keep like jobs filled in your community, let them have a really successful space and, you know, fulfilling life in your community, it's really engaging those partners directly is so valuable. As much as a lift as it can be, it's a really valuable thing for students and for partners, right? To understand their own skin in the game as they think about like, well, we have these jobs to fill. It's like, all right, so support our students. And I would love to hear too, I don't know, I think it was Lauren put in kind of this course. Would love to hear if you're able to go off mute and share about that at all. I think you're muted on my end. No, sorry. The joys of virtual. Sorry. You're welcome to try to come back in and out too. Sometimes it's like, I don't know what to do. I just like restart or go back in and out or like smack the remote, you know? No, sorry, Lauren. There, I mean, to Lauren's piece too, curious about, you know, what kind of professional development or support you all might be even doing for staff and your teams as you're thinking about implementing these new, maybe new, totally new experiences in your area. So, you know, there's the pilot plan itself, and there's the additional layer of where you might be building up your team or gathering your team together to be able to design and implement these types of experiences.
In Elmwood Park, we were able to partner with Virtual Job Shadow to provide some professional development to our teaching staff to be able to integrate some more of those experiences into their career study courses that our students take throughout the course of their time in the middle school.
Cool. And was that like what did that course look like for them?
So we've actually had multiple check-ins with our Virtual Job Shadow rep, which has been really great because our teachers, you know, like they built the curriculums for these courses. And so they're able to kind of like insert those Virtual Job Shadow experiences. And so as we need Joseph, we have him come back, and he started with doing just like an overall arching training. And then he was able to specifically meet with our individual career study teachers based on the course they're teaching to kind of fully to have them like dive deeper into what Virtual Job Shadow offers. And now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking one of our career study teachers from each course. So we have a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade course for each class. And one of those teachers is now going to start planning real life experiences for the kids to be able to go on. And because obviously with COVID and everything, we couldn't do like field trips and things like that. But now more things are opening up. So we're going to be actually at my first meeting with the College and Career Pathways team on Monday to start integrating more of those experiences for our students in those classes.
That's awesome. Thanks, Ashley.
Yep.
And no worries, Lauren, would love to hear what you all get up to and how it maybe changes your thinking or changes kind of your thoughts about how you do career exploration. There was comments too in the chat about CTSOs, your career and tech student organizations. They can also be great resources to do PD for staff, right? Or even talk through their models and their partners and resources they have to do career exploration and come into your classrooms or do something after school, right? They're very teed up to support a lot of those pieces. Any additional, I mean, there could be general questions, weedy questions, as we kind of have this moment here. Or again, sharing about your plans or your thinking.
As we dive in more to the logistics of how these programs are implemented, Steve, it sounds like a really great opportunity that you guys have over there in Tremont for providing the opportunity for the students to come down and kind of experience welding and some of those programs in preparation for those great pathways at the high school level. But just wondering how you guys are logistically implementing that, how, more specifically, what grade level of students and how you incorporate them into those programs through the course of the day. I imagine your districts are Alliance Elementary is close proximity to your programs, the high school, which probably facilitates that a little bit easier, you might guess. But I'm just kind of wondering how some of the more specifics logistically of how you implement that.
Yeah, we with some of the grant equipment we got was the welding simulator. So we have that in the middle school. Actually, we're doing it with grade 7 and 8. We have an advisory period at the beginning of the day from 8 to 8:40, and so we're kind of rotating them through. Heather rotated all the 8th grade advisories kind of through her group, and they had a chance to explore that. And then we'll rotate all the 7th graders through my group the same way. The health science stuff, a lot of the mannequins and materials we got with the grant that was written are going to require a lot of supervision with the kids. And so that's where we're thinking of having some of those career experts come in and be able to kind of monitor that and help facilitate any questions and stuff.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Someone mentioned in the chat to go to your area career centers for tours. I was wondering if anybody's ever done that virtually. We're in the process right now with our community college to set up virtual visits for our students, our seniors, our students looking at dual credit. And I'm curious if anybody's ever done that on the high school or in the career center model.
We've brought groups into our career center in the past. Right now, COVID-wise, we are not doing that. We're just trying to get settled back into more of a, I'll call it normalcy and such. We've even had 5th graders come in and tour the place, and my teachers and students have done hands-on pieces for them. Right now, I think one of the biggest challenges is something Joe mentioned, was a lot of logistics issues are a big problem. We got no bus drivers in all of central Illinois, I feel. We got nobody able to take field trips because of numerous issues such as that. We are looking at potentially taking out a traveling roadshow to some elementary schools now with some of my career center students with students, for example, in fire science or our CNA program or criminal justice program, and go deliver presentations to elementary kids in that manner. But it's very challenging to open up the center because we're still under a lot of, restrictions, as well as teachers just needing a return to normalcy without overflowing them even more.
So Tom, have you thought about doing that virtually? I'm just curious if that's something that you guys have thought about.
We've thought about a lot of things, I'll be honest. Yeah, we've thought about it virtually. We've done some short videos that we've posted in different areas. We're talking 2-minute type things and such. My schools are not as interested in that as they are in a very hands-on, engaging or face-to-face encounter. They're just not as interested.
Thank you.
Yep.
Curious to hear as well, as we're kind of got our last 10 minutes here too, is thinking through, like Tom saying students didn't feel that was engaging, right? Like wondering how you all are thinking about or currently collecting any kind of student feedback on the experience, right? What they gained out of it, what they wish they would have gained out of it, how it might have shaped their thinking, or any next steps or questions that they have. And maybe it's in the form of a survey, right? But maybe it's a class discussion, right? Or maybe it's like a small group thing, or students putting Post-it notes up on a piece of chart paper, right? Just curious if you all are thinking about that or what you're doing. Well, I definitely encourage you all to. Your students are, I was remembering something that someone said to me the other day, where students or youth, right? Like they vote with their feet, like whether they show up or not to things is their vote, or whether they find something valuable or not valuable to inform them in their lives. And within a course, right? Then they're kind of just in that course and it's happening. And so there you go. Their feet are in their seats. But would definitely encourage you, even if it's just a general like group discussion after an event, right? Or students are filling something out, or you know, I'm drawing a picture of something, right? Some way to represent or for them to give feedback about their experience and how it's informing them, or how it maybe didn't inform them, right? Those could navigate your conversations that you have with partners to say like, hey, you know, okay, so next time I have this partner and I really want to make sure they address this thing, because like half the class really wanted to know about that and it wasn't shared, right? As you all are putting in a lot of effort and figuring out these experiences, you want to make sure they kind of capture student need, capture community need and partner need, and all those pieces are coming together. So it's a lot of work. So want to make sure it's meeting a need. I don't know too, if folks want to talk about even like partner kind of relationships and recruitment and support there, if there's questions about that, or best practices or insights you all have as you're engaging with partners to come in and support these types of experiences. Or any additional questions or resources or Chamber of Commerce? Yeah, absolutely. We can also end a bit or hang on if other folks have questions, but appreciate you all. Hope this was helpful. I'll be sending out, you know, within the next week or so, a registration link for our December community of practice. But I think these are helpful. So I think I might like to kind of do these once a month or something, and just again, have you all come on, talk about your plans, share some resources, but insights gathered here, I'll continue to put them up on that website so that if you weren't able to make it for whatever reason, right, it'll be shared through our website, it'll be shared. We have, I mean, my list of contacts is much bigger than what's in this room. So definitely want to make sure what you all are providing with the larger group as well, so we can continue to learn from and collaborate with one another.
Heather, I appreciate you doing this. I think, you know, I've learned a lot from just hearing some of the individuals talk about what they're doing in their regions. One of the things I liked about what I always forgot about the junior achievement model, that virtual aspect of that, I think that's something I think we all struggle with was, you know, we can't go out and do anything. Buses are an issue. Presenters sometimes don't want to come in. So how do we develop something virtually that we can all, you know, have our students access? And, you know, I'm just struggling on how to get that done. And where to start with. I mean, we have limited resources, but there's got to be a way. And I like how Valley View is doing it. I thank you for sharing that, because that's something that's kind of going around in my mind right now is how do I build something like that?
That's great. Thanks, Michael. I know as we move now into this kind of hybrid zone too, we're learning a new thing again about how to do maybe experiences in a hybrid manner, or fully in person again, or fully virtual still, right? And I think I know there's feedback too about student engagement in virtual, right? But where you can think about maybe there's a guest speaker who's virtual, but that pre and post is in person and maybe is a bit more interactive, right? To make it kind of that hybrid full experience could be thoughtful too, right? To keep student engagement up. Well, thank you all. I'll put my email in here again, but I'll send a follow-up to this group and anyone else who registered. I'll put this recording in there. Again, I'm going to copy that chat and put it in there as well. I'll send an email too. I'm organizing and I'm going to send out this week like a listserv of folks who are doing career exploration. So you can kind of go back and forth through a group email and continue to share links and resources and your models. That's voluntary for you all to participate in, but but thank you all. I'll stay on for a bit if you have any other questions. Otherwise, have a wonderful rest of your day.
I grabbed like 2 pages of notes there.
Hey, there you go.
It's,
No,
you
I
know, it's impossible for one person to like know where everything is. And I'm just blown away sometimes at all the ideas everyone has.
I'm just putting in the like chat here. I should save on Zoom, but I'm always nervous. I'm like emailing the chat to myself for a moment. Did you have any questions?
I don't. Yeah, I've been, in fact, just this morning, I checked again the queue to see if I've got any